Hello, everyone. I'm Jay Lazega. Welcome to this session installment of L&J's Morning Break here with my good friend, Jamie Lyons. Hello, Jamie.
Hey, everybody.
So we're all still dealing with COVID issues, and thank you for joining us today. We're excited to have you. We want to do something a little different with this one. We are going to talk a little bit about Governor Kemp's extension of his order, what that means. But we want to talk about two issues that we're getting a lot of questions about. One is a lot of you have already opened pools or other amenities, but others have not. And we're going to talk about messages to the community to try to get them calmed down, off our backs, explain what the board is going through and making the decision open. And we actually have a freebie for you under the handouts tab, a sample letter that you can use, change, edit, but use for your boards to communicate with your members about what the board is doing and the plans on opening. We'll talk more about that today. And then we're going to talk about the question, as offensive as it is, that we're starting to get a lot of, which is, why do I have to pay dues at all if you haven't opened the poll, or you're 2 weeks late on opening the poll, or where's my reduction or refund? We'll talk about that today. So you guys have done these before. You know that these are available on our website. Share them with your boards. Feel free to do that. This will be up next week with the handouts. And you can ask us questions in the questions tab on the sidebar. We will answer those after today's session. We'll get with you individually. But we love to hear your questions. We love to hear your comments. We love to hear your suggestions on programs. Hopefully, our programs will start moving towards getting back to normal life, like budgeting and planning for annual meetings and community improvement projects, things like that. But we're going to start today with Jamie talking about the latest extension of Governor Kemp's order. So Jamie, have at it.
Thanks. So on May 28th, Governor Kemp did essentially two things that impact the association, which is, first, he extended the public health state of emergency, and that was extended through July 12th. So that's extended for a little bit longer than the other order that I'm going to talk about mostly. And then the other thing that his other executive order did was extend a number of different requirements for all different types of entities and businesses. And this extension that we're going to spend most time on will be extended, or was extended, through June 15th at 11:59 p.m. So essentially at Monday night, as it turns into Tuesday, the order will expire unless it is again extended in some way. So there are essentially four things I want to talk about regarding the order. And the first is that everyone needs to know that the social distancing requirements have been extended, which I think everyone knows. But the order specifically says all residents and visitors of Georgia are required to practice social distancing and refrain from gathering. And that again is through at least the end of the night on on Monday, June 15th. The other thing that is part of it is that residents in Georgia are strongly encouraged, but is not required, to wear face masks or face coverings when you're outside of your home. The sanitation requirements regarding hand washing and keeping things properly disinfected are also in compliance with the CDC requirements, are also extended through June 15th. And most importantly for all of us, no nonprofits are allowed to gather and have to keep social distancing requirements in place. So a couple things I want to mention. Everyone knows this already. Social distancing is the same as it was before in this order. You have to stay 6 feet apart from anybody else, unless they're your family or you live with them in the same household. That is the same as it was before. It has continued. I'm not going to talk today at all about the protesters and how they're all clumped together and not 6 feet apart, but the order does remain in effect to socially distance. The other thing is that there's a special section in the order, as there was before, for nonprofit corporations and businesses. And essentially, nonprofit corporations are still obligated. It is not a suggestion. It's an obligation and a requirement that you screen and evaluate people who are working for you for COVID. So if you've got lifeguards, if you've opened the pool, if you've got pool monitors, if you've got on-site managers, you're supposed to be screening and evaluating all these workers to make sure that they don't have any signs or symptoms of COVID.
Front desk staff, things like that.
Exactly. Concierge, etc. If you are opening any of your facilities, you're required to have signs in the front of your facilities regarding COVID-19 and who's permitted and prohibited from using the facilities. You have to continue, of course, to enhance your sanitation procedures, which you all are doing. That is extended through June 15th as a requirement. Hand washing stations, and also two kind of major things I want to mention. Enforcing social distancing when you're not cohabitating with someone means that if you've got your pool open or you've got your clubhouse open, you are required to have enough space in that location for anybody who is there to be 6 feet apart from anyone else who is there, as long as if they're not in the same residence. So your pool could be gigantic, and you could have more people if you have like an Olympic-sized pool around your pool deck than a community with a smaller pool. But either way, everyone who's there at the same time has to be at least 6 feet apart, as long as they're from different households. And that needs to be monitored, because part of this requirement is that you enforce social distancing. So you've got to have people at the pool who are monitoring this process, which means you're either paying or getting a volunteer to be a monitor, separate and apart, completely different from your lifeguard. So just keep that in mind. That might be an added expense. The last thing I wanted to talk about regarding the order is volunteer work days. I've had a couple of associations want to put together volunteer work days prior to opening their pool, prior to opening their amenities, picking up trash, or just making the place look nice, because they usually do it every year. Number one, I think it's a poor choice for associations to sponsor or host a volunteer work day so that people are together working in the same spot. But if the association is going to do it, you've got to enforce social distancing. You are prohibited by this executive order from allowing anyone to participate who has been diagnosed with COVID, who has been around someone who's been diagnosed with COVID, who's exhibited symptoms of COVID, the same stuff as before. But they are prohibited from participating in this kind of activity. Everyone's got to be 6 feet apart. If they're gathering in any area before or after, they should be wearing face masks, because that's the smart thing to do. And in our opinion, you should have them signing waivers or releases as well, like we talked about a couple weeks ago. So just wanted to bring those things to your attention. All of that is in place through at least June 15th at 11:59 p.m.
Great, thank you, Jamie.
Oh,
so,
wait, one more thing. I'm sorry. Sorry. Everyone is also talking about this concept that the executive order switched from 10 people to 25 people, and how that's a big deal, and now we can have 25 people together. That is related to the definition of the term gatherings in the executive orders that Governor Kemp has issued. And for the most part, it really doesn't apply for us anyway, because we've got to keep everyone being 6 feet apart on any property that we own or operate. So the whole concept of more than 25 people, yay, 25 people, but they all still have to be 6 feet apart. So if that's not going to work in your clubhouse or your pool, it doesn't matter how many people you can have. You can only have a maximum as long as everyone is 6 feet apart. So that's it.
through at least June 15th, we must continue to enforce that at pools specifically.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily other amenities with a person, a monitor, an enforcer. But that leads to the next point, which is, again, if you look at the handout section of the menu bar, you'll see a sample we've given you of a community letter. And I believe it's important that we communicate to our members about what we're doing as boards, our boards are doing, whether we've opened or not, and particularly if we've not. And it's shocking to many of us how aggressive and hostile few people are about amenity openings. And obviously it's a time where it is extremely fair and frankly necessary for boards to do real evaluation about what opening looks like, and considering things which are valid things to consider, like the very real possibility of lack of general liability insurance coverage, the cost and administration of operating, and particularly with pools, staffing to enforce and monitor and what that looks like. So whether we have opened or whether we are still planning how to open, all of those things are legitimate things for boards to consider. What my takeaway suggestion on all of this is I believe you've seen the reaction from homeowners and gotten emails and calls, and we've seen board members resigning over this. And that's completely unfortunate. But what I believe is important for us to do is get our members or residents out of the mindset that whatever decision we are making today, if the pool is not open today, it doesn't mean that you are not going to be using the pool through September. People, and I think this will be our message, people are reacting with broader thoughts, longer thoughts than is the reality. And the reality is things are changing so frequently and so fast in the environment, in the world, and governmental orders and CDC and Georgia Department of Public Health recommendations that we can't at any one point make a decision for a whole season. Just can't, not realistic. So I think what our message should be for every community, whether we've opened or not, is we should be putting out to our members that first, the board shares the goal of providing recreation opportunity to our members. We share that goal of opening amenities when we think we can do that reasonably safe, balancing the issues we know we have with liability concerns, administration concerns, cost concerns. But our goal is to get amenities open. And we are going to do that as quickly as we can with what the board considers to be a safe approach to doing that. And that we know things move quickly. And in fact, Governor Kemp's most recent extension takes us through June 15th. And after June 15th, we may have a completely different situation where there is no executive order making it a misdemeanor for us to violate these guidelines. But that doesn't necessarily mean all of these protocols go away, because CDC and DPH still have guidelines in place. They may or may not update them. But I think what's important for us to do is communicate to our members, we commit. First, we share the goal of getting amenities open safely as soon as we possibly can for the board's comfort, with our comfort level. Second, we commit to what I think is the amount of time that people will accept and reduce their hostility and aggression within every 2 weeks to reevaluate where things are in terms of changes in health reporting about the virus, executive orders, guidelines. Every 2 weeks, we will review to determine whether we can open if we're not open, whether we can relax certain protocols if we have opened, and we'll continue to do that through the whole season. And we will do that relaxation, understanding this is not a normal summer. We're going to have regulations, we're going to have limitations. They are going to be part of this season's operation. But when we put them in place, we're going to put them in place temporarily, understanding we're going to continue to reevaluate with the goal of providing us more opportunity to use our amenities when we can. So the sample letter that we've given you guys, please feel free to use it, tweak it, share it with any of your boards. You know, frankly, we don't care if there are clients or not. This is our industry, and it's important to us for people to do things safely and appropriately. So we suggest you do that and get your boards to understand is whatever we are doing in operating amenities, it's important for us to have a continuing, frequent plan of communicating to our members. All right, a lot of information, but we have more. Jamie, why don't you talk about all the people who think because they don't get to use the pool for 2 weeks, they should never pay fees?
Right. So we're seeing a lot of managers giving us, sending us emails from owners who are asking for refunds. And they're asking for either a reduced amount of their assessments, or they want a complete refund because they're not getting what they're entitled to. And we've been responding to each of them individually. In my opinion, I do not think that there should be a blanket letter that is sent from the board to the entire membership saying, we're not giving you a refund, pay your assessments anyway, because probably 3/4 of your people haven't even thought of a refund. And if you bring it up in a communication to the entire community, they're going to be like, oh, I didn't even think of that. So I would strongly encourage you, if you get individuals with that kind of question, to respond to those people singly, with a specific letter just to them. The law is very, very clear for community associations. There's been case law on this, since before I even started practicing law, actually, about the owner's obligation to pay assessments and how it is completely independent from the association's obligations to provide services to the owners. That has not changed. Most association documents allow the board of directors to close temporarily any portion of the common property for any reason whatsoever. And this would certainly qualify for one of those types of reasons. And there is no set off or refund available to owners if and when that happens. So what we're seeing is either the owner is writing or the owner has a lawyer who's writing, and we are then responding back with a full legal opinion letter about why they're obligated to pay their assessments, and the fact that they're not going to get a refund, and that we will collect against them in the event that they don't pay, just like we would any other owner who becomes delinquent. I think it's kind of ironic that if they don't pay, their rights to use the common property are typically suspended, and that kind of doesn't matter if this common property is not open, but I just think that's sort of comical. But just know that the law is essentially on the side of the association. And almost all documents provide the association with the authority to close the amenities at any point in time, usually temporarily. Sometimes it says permanently. This is going to be temporary, obviously, but that the association's right is intact to do so. And the response to the owner could be pretty forceful if we need to get that, if we need to go there.
Yeah. Although if I can add real quickly, Jamie, I do like the approach of being friendly with the person and explaining, look, we have budgeted and assessed for this fiscal year based on our anticipation of all expenses. And the non-opening for a short window of time of an amenity doesn't really impact our expenses at all. In fact,
and the other part of that is
more.
Right, well, that's the other part of it. If you're opening the pool, but you're not going to open the fitness facility, which I strongly would encourage you to not open the fitness facility yet at all. There are still that 19-point list of things you have to do if you're going to have a fitness room open is still intact, at least until June 15th. And so you may not be spending money on the fitness facility or on certain other expenses, but if you're opening the pool and now you need to be paying pool monitors, you have more expenses in that category than you had before. So it most likely will all end up in the wash as far as, still at a zero balance budget. Even though you're not spending some over here, you might be spending more over there. So again, you won't know that until the end of the year, until you're finished with your budget year and figure out what your fiscal responsibility was to the association and how that played out based on what your budget was.
And I think we could even tell them, for the ones that we need something more, look, if in fact we've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, which of course we know we're not,
right,
then we can consider that in next year's budget cycle. Thanks for raising it. We all share the same goal of keeping assessments as low as possible to run our community properly.
And the last piece on that one that I'd like to mention is that most owners don't really remember that the board is in the same position as they are. The board is paying their assessments too, just like every other owner. The board is not going to make a decision that would negatively impact the community as a whole, but also it's going to impact themselves individually. And people forget that a lot of times. So kind of reminding the owners who are making these overtures and asking these questions about this kind of stuff, that we're all in the same boat. The board members are us. We're all together in this. It oftentimes changes their perception a little from us, them to we're all in this together.
So our plan is to actually give you a sample letter of this one that you can use to respond to people, and put that up on our website again next week. Definitely visit our website. Jamie, you had a couple of last announcements you wanted to make?
Yeah, I have a couple things. On middle of May, I taught like an almost 200-person CE class on license law. It was so fun because it was
awesome.
Totally, it was huge, but it was just me talking to a camera. It was the strangest thing. But we had a couple questions during that class about what happens if your license expires during the whole COVID experience and you don't have enough CE credits. And I want to be clear that I have now gotten an official answer from the Real Estate Commission, and you're not going to like it. But I still want to tell you what the answer is. Essentially, what they said is if you don't have enough credits during your 4 years prior to your license expiring during this period of time and can't get enough credits before your license expires, you should then renew your license as inactive. And then when you get enough credits, you can reactivate your license. That's your option. I will tell you, there are tons of online classes to get your credits. So if you're in the situation right now where you need more credits, you may have to pay for them, but you definitely have the opportunity to get them. Couple little plugs for something that I'm doing.
And we have some planned over the next month.
And that's what I'm about to say. So I'm teaching a CAM class, a licensing class on June 25, 26, 29, and 30. It's a Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. And every morning and every afternoon of my CAM class is a separate 3-hour CE class. So if you just need 3 or 6 or 9 or 12 hours, but not 24, you can pick and choose which of the mornings and afternoons you want to come to. You're going to have to pay for the class. That CAM class is always a billable class, essentially. We share that with Capitalist Learning, and we charge for that particular class. We, though, as L&J, are teaching a class at the middle of July, July 21st, and it's a 3-hour CE class. It's free. It'll be a webinar, and it's going to be about meetings, and all about board meetings, all about membership meetings, specifically annual meetings that all of us are now going to start hosting probably in a virtual platform. So that'll be a free CE too. And remember, you can take CE classes that have nothing to do with community associations, but if you need to get your license right away. But it's always better to take your credits as soon as possible during your 4 years, so you don't have to worry about it when you get to that 4-year marker. Yeah. So just want to kind of point those couple of things out, and that's all I got.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you guys for joining us. We love that you come listen to these and watch these. We love your comments, questions. We're going to leave the session open after Jamie and I sign off for a couple of minutes in case you have any last comments or questions. We miss you guys. We hope that we can see you again soon. Thanks. Take care.